Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. For this video, I thought I would change things up a little bit and take you through the process of having a prefab cabin delivered to your property and installed. It's something you don't see as much of on YouTube versus the traditional cabin building method, so we thought this might be of interest for anyone considering this type of cabin or cottage, or even for your permanent home. Let me tell you, it was quite the experience, and we certainly had our share of ups and downs. There are so many things that have to be factored in before and after you take the plunge. And although we had zero experience with something like this, we assumed the role of general contractor. It didn't take long to figure out that we better be prepared for anything, including last-minute design changes, scheduling issues, hits to the budget, and of course, numerous hoops to jump through, compliments of the township. And for fun, let's mix in a pandemic. Why not? In the end, we learned a lot, both about the process and ourselves, and now get to enjoy the cozy little cabin that we have grown to love. So just a little background before we get to the build itself. We bought this 3-acre property in 2019 with the intent of just using our RV for occasional visits. The land hadn't been tended to in over a decade, but we saw the potential and quickly fell in love with its diverse features that included huge rock outcroppings, a great mix of hard and softwoods, and even a small stream. Electricity was already in place, as well as a working drilled well. And as we would find out later, an old septic system that was long since buried under deep brush. That was until Q literally tripped over it. This septic, although working, was not up to current code unfortunately, so we would eventually need a new one. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, I guess. We also inherited a structure that I'm sure was used in the filming of Friday the 13th, as well as a small utility shed that housed the power. This poor thing needed a quick makeover after a decade of neglect and was one of our first projects out of the gate. Anyway, we quickly learned the restrictive bylaws for RV use would be more challenging than we thought. We were allowed 30 days in a calendar year to use it, but of course bylaw enforcement had no idea how many days we were there. We started to receive warning letters from the township and visits from the enforcement office. Clearly, someone had complained. What a hassle. Since we loved being there, we warmed up to the idea of updating the existing building on site and brought in a few contractors to provide a quote to make it a safe and livable structure. We knew this building was a hot mess, and frankly, we hated going in there. It had been abandoned for over a decade, but we thought if the bones were good, we could work with it. Or not. It wasn't a real shock to hear that none of the contractors wanted anything to do with it and instead provided quotes on replacing it with a shiny new cabin. Ouch. This was not the plan at all, but if we wanted to enjoy this property, we had to look at building from scratch. The old building was soon demolished and dozens of mice were forced to seek shelter elsewhere. Unfortunately, that turned out to be our RV. Karma, I suppose. As we both worked full-time in Toronto and generally lacked the necessary skills, this was going to fall to a builder in order to make it happen. After an exhaustive review of our local options and many sleepless nights, we settled on the prefab route from a company called Legendary Log Crafters, located here in Ontario. Legendary has a number of plans available, but I already had it in my head the type of cabin I wanted, and fortunately they were able to make it work with their unique building process. The size would be 24 by 36 in order to meet the minimum size required by the township. There are different styles of prefab homes. Some come in 2 large sections and are practically finished when they arrive. Ours, however, would be transported in pieces like a giant puzzle that gets put together on site. The beams, doors, and wall panels with windows pre-installed will be hauled up on 3 separate vehicles. The company refers to our home as a hybrid model, and it will feature large timber beams throughout, combined with the use of traditional materials for framing and siding. The finishing, however, falls completely to us. The builder requires a foundation and subfloor to be in place before they arrive. And when you are building panels for a custom design in a location hours away, there is zero margin for error here. It's not like finding out a pair of socks don't fit after you take them home. And now with COVID sending the world into panic, we were left scrambling to find qualified contractors in the area that were A, willing to work, and B, could fit us in. Let's not forget the rise of the infamous COVID surcharge, which hit us every step of the way. Seemed every time the phone rang, it cost thousands. Anyway, after a lot of back and forth on design changes and colors, etc., we finally got all the I's dotted and T's crossed, and an installation date was agreed on. It was time to get the site prepared, and the window for this was very tight. Things just got real, and we were pretty excited. It is now July 19th, 2021, installation day. The site is prepped, and we have set up a place for the crew to have lunch. Our cabin is on 3 trailers and only minutes away. We have family up to help and take in the show. We have also contacted the township earlier to get traffic signs put up on the road, as we anticipate a lot of finagling for these huge trailers to get up the long, steep driveway. The height of the hydro lines has been measured, and there would be just enough clearance. Thank goodness. The little crane that could gets positioned close to the build site. The trailers get up the driveway with very little drama and are positioned to the left. The operator and the building crew go over the game plan, and the fun begins. The pieces all have to clear a small tree line, and while a couple got an unexpected haircut, they would survive the ordeal. The lift of the 36-foot panels was the point where I had to look away. The crane was definitely struggling, according to the operator, but he pulled it off. The rest of the pieces are hoisted into place and assembled. The legendary crew and our contractors worked like a well-oiled machine. Seeing this come together in a short time was an unforgettable experience. This is a very small town, and word spreads fast when there is something happening. From the road, a number of locals could see the pieces being lifted and decided to drop by for a look. They were as blown away by the process as we were, and many took the time to share stories from way back about this special spot up on the hill. So the day comes to an end, and we are exhausted, emotionally and physically. This has been an incredible journey, but as we look up, we see our efforts have paid off. The place on the hill is now a reality, and it's time to get on with the next chapter and make this a home. Q and I hope you found this interesting. There's so much more that goes into the process, so in a future video, we plan to take a deeper dive into all the requirements to make it happen, and discuss the pros and cons as well as the costs of a prefab versus a traditional build. If you're considering a prefab, please let us know in the comments, and as always, we're here if you have any questions. And if you own one, we would also love to hear about your experiences. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you soon.